friggin' Meghan Markle stuff, and we're still dealing with that, and I'm like,
no.
but
do you know how cruel this is to me and Holly as well? Because we've stated so many times we
don't
care about the royals.
And yet it's all that's being talked about. It's all the media can
And like, it
focus
seems
on.
like the point we can't really not address it. But like, what is there left to say that you haven't already heard? You know?
Do you know what I found ridiculous? That
What?
they showed it on the Saturday in America.
Yeah.
All the British papers reported everything that was said, and then they did it again when it was played in the UK on Sunday evening. And you think, what? Is there nothing else we could be talking? Yes, there is. There's hundreds of things we could be talking about.
Yeah, that's the thing. There was actual things that could have been talked about that day. Like, for example, I think the same day that it was coming out in the UK, like, care homes in England had just, like, allowed visitors in, or, like, people to see. So some people, that was the first time they'd seen, like, one of their parents in, like, a year, in so long. And it was and obviously they had to be distanced, they had to wear masks.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine that? And then, like, the only thing the news was really saying is, Meghan Markle, do we like her, do we not?
Yeah.
And like, yeah, we do. Well, I like her, but I would love to be indifferent on the topic because I don't care.
Yeah. I'm tired of people talking about her, because what they want, ideally, obviously they need to get money somehow, and if it's their trauma to do with it what they will. I'm not against them. I'm not against her. I'm against the media's fixation on her and the royal family, which is the biggest distraction, which just lets the British government do whatever they want, because everyone's distracted and everyone's focused on the infighting of some weird family. Who cares?
Isn't that weird? Like,
who cares?
Don't we have enough family issues of our own? Why are you going and latching onto another family's? Just leave them alone. And also, again, like, people being like, oh, the royal family, no, they won't be racist. Well, of course they are.
Have people forgotten? She's the last monarch of the empire. Have people forgotten?
Literally, if any family in the UK is going to be racist, and I'm not saying that they're going out and just being outwardly racist.
But they are.
Yeah, of course they are. It's ingrained in who they are. Did anyone think that they wouldn't be? Like, it would be nice to see them working on it, which is what they've said they've done. But to claim that it just doesn't exist is so stupid, and why would anyone think that? That's ignorant.
And the pictures of, so which one was it? The old one that's going to be William. He's come out and said the royal family is categorically not a racist family. But then all those pictures came out of him and Kate in, I can't remember where it was, but they're being carried by people of colour on thrones like it's the heyday of the friggin' empire. And you think, look, this was 2012, you idiot. Like, no, but it's a joke. I think before I knew really who the royal family were, obviously you know the Queen, but the extended royal family, I knew it was a joke that they were racist before I knew who they were. Like Prince Philip and Charles, you knew that they were racist before you knew what. So like, oh, I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of them being in the news, and I think Meghan Markle's treatment obviously is continually, she's being racistly attacked all the time. This is her trauma to talk about. It's great, start a conversation. But Piers Morgan walking off to join some right-wing TV network and everyone's like, it's because she jolted him. Like,
what?
Yeah,
How is it her fault?
Well, she did jolt him. He had this story where he was on like one of the talk shows a few years ago, and he was saying the night that he was having dinner with Meghan Markle, he was at a party with Meghan Markle, and she was drunk, and he put her in a cab. And then he was like kind of joking about it. And then that night she went to a different party and met Prince Harry. So that's why people are kind of like, ew, you're a disgusting man.
Weird. I didn't know that bit of information. That's really weird.
So his like attack of her was probably because he felt like she jolted him, even though that she probably never. He's a disgusting man. But yeah, that was the other thing, that it was satisfying watching him walk off in disgrace, but he's not going to go away because
he never will.
And all these like female presenters on ITV, like Lorraine Kelly and bloody Suzanne Reid, and they're all like, Amanda Holden, he's a good man. Oh, but he's a great and loyal friend. I'm like,
The one who annoys me the most is Susanna Reid, because she makes her career off him and being like, oh, P.S. don't say that, but allowing him to say these harmful things because it means that she has a career. She never once, if she really was offended by what he was saying, she would have stopped him years ago. She never did. And so the idea that now it's like, oh, good for Susanna, like she's getting her time to shine and he's off like she always wanted. No, she was making her career. She's probably disappointed, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because now, like, sadly, the show, I mean, I never liked it, but the morning show they were on will not get as many views because there were people tuning in to see Pierce just be offensive, which is, and like then that would go viral on Twitter later in the day, so we'll get more views on like the next day, something like that. No, I don't like anyone on that show. I'm sorry.
No.
Except the guy that called Pierce out. Like,
he was great, but it also shows you that if Piers Morgan, in the name of like free speech, and this is what annoys me about the free speech debate, like if TikTok can censor people talking about sexual assault or sex ed, and people have to make different words to talk about these issues to educate people, and yet hate crime can be spewed and grooming stuff, and it's like, this is not free speech. That we don't live with a free speech protected world, and thinking that you can say whatever you want, it's not. Why can't you just be kind to people, Piers? Who hurt you?
Did you watch the interview?
Which one?
The Oprah one.
Oh no.
No, it was super long. I didn't watch it. But like, I've seen clips throughout the week. Full support to Meghan and Harry and whatnot. Yeah. There was one clip that I think people have recognised as being a tad weird. Not in, like, just take away all the context and how you feel about anyone. When Meghan was like, it was like I was the Little Mermaid and...
I have seen this! I have seen this!
Like, bless her, but that was cringy. That was really cringy, Meghan.
She had to find her voice.
And she was like, and now I have my voice. And I was like, oh, like, I get what you're saying and power to you, but like, you're a grown woman.
She's like 35.
Yeah, stop watching The Little Mermaid.
Well, she's a Disney adult.
Oh
my god. I feel like we have to address the main pop culture moment of the week, which is the new film, House of Gucci.
Beautiful.
With Adam Driver, Hannah's fave, and Lady Gaga, my fave. And the pictures are incredible already.
When I first found out this film was happening with Lady Gaga and Adam Driver.
On the message boards, probably. She knew before everyone.
It was on Twitter. It was on Adam Driver Twitter, if you're on there. It, like, I honestly, the thought going through my head was, you know, that TikTok sound that's like, when worlds collide. And I was thinking that about, like, this is mine and Holly's worlds colliding. It's
like if we sat down and were like, what do we need the most right now?
This is it.
Collaboration.
Like, nice clothes, nice places to go on holiday, and then our two favourite people. Sounds like we're in a dream. How did that happen for us? And
I don't know.
I think we need to shout out some of the pictures that were taken this week. Yes, there is the one that probably everyone's seen, the one that was on Lady Gaga's Instagram. But the favourite ones is Lady Gaga feeding Adam Driver. Why?
She's so small. She's like a foot small.
Really tiny. Isn't she like 5 foot?
She's 5'2", I think.
She's he's like a foot and a bit taller than her.
She's reaching out with both arms to feed this giant man. And then my favourite one, I think, has definitely been the one I sent you yesterday, which is her feeding him a giant Chromatica Oreo. Why does she have it? Why is it that big? Why is it not
Wait,
like
Holly, the picture's edited. Did you not
I thought
know
it was
that?
real. No, I thought it was
Holly, why would that exist? The initial picture is her feeding him a calzone for some reason.
Well, yeah, I saw, and then I thought she moved on for like into the dessert,
and somehow had in Italy had managed to get her hands on a massive Lady Gaga Oreo. Like, guys, for reference, the size of the Oreo is probably like the size of an average person's face.
A baby's head.
Yeah, like... a baby's head. That's incredible. I didn't know. I would have informed you earlier than on this very podcast if I was aware that was what you thought.
I thought she just kept them as like a PR thing in her bag.
Maybe and was does. Like, imagine if I'm wrong and she just has loads of. But just the pairing of them is so odd, but incredible. The fact that he's in a wig and blue contact lenses is.
Oh, I haven't. Oh, she's zoomed in the picture to see the contact lenses. I
didn't initially. I didn't initially until people were saying, "Oh my God, why's he got blue eyes?" And I was like, "I need to see this." It all seems like I have entered an alternative timeline. Because why? How does this exist? But I am happy it does, and I can't wait for it to come out.
Yeah, it's going to be incredible.
Yeah, give it. But then we have to admit that one of our less favourite men.
I forgot about him.
Going to be in it.
Boo. He's probably there on his Gucci contract because he does all the ad campaigns, doesn't he?
Yeah. Okay. Can't wait to see him. But you know that Adam Driver's probably going to be in about half an hour of the film, and then he's going to die, and the rest of it's just going to be Jared Leto being like, "I have a cult," and that'll be it.
Is that your prediction for the film?
It's just going to be one long promotion for Jared Leto's cult.
Mars Island. He just pieced the camera. Mars Island.
It's like The Office. Anytime something controversial happens, Jared Leto to camera. Have you heard of Mars Island? On Thursday, Vanity Fair finally posted the Armie Hammer expose, and it was very long, and I read it all. It probably wasn't that long. Like, it's not the longest thing I've read, but boy, I can't say I really learned a bunch of new stuff, and unlike what many suspected, there was no mention of him murdering anyone, so I think he's clean of murdering someone at the minute.
Last night we watched Made You Look on Netflix, which is about how Michael Hammer, Armie Hammer's dad's gallery, managed to dupe people into selling $80 million worth of art.
I was going to watch this.
It's so good.
It was about his
dad.
It's him.
And then it was like Armie Hammer, and they kept showing pictures of him. I'm like, oh my God, it's this Michael Hammer, sorry. And I was like, oh, it's him. And then I was like, Mum, Dad, their son's a cannibal. Look, it's like a rotten ant. And they didn't care. They were like, Mum's like, don't tell me anymore. I will have nightmares. I was like, okay, but this is exciting
to me. Oh my God, I didn't know that was about him. That's so exciting. Anyway, if you have been on TikTok and on Twitter and looking into it a lot while it's been happening, some of this news might not be fully new to you, so I'm sorry. But some of it still was new to me.
Okay.
So I'm going to read some of the more interesting things that I found out in the article.
Oh.
And the main thing is, so we start with sort of them giving us family history on the Hammer family, and I think my takeaway from this is these people had too much money, because it screams, when people have so much wealth that they're just very odd, they will just, I feel like they kill for fun, that sort of vibe. That didn't happen, but so it's going to get confusing because there's a lot of men, and
all of them bad.
Yeah, so we start with Armie's great-great-grandfather.
Oh my God, we're going this far?
Yeah, or there's just a line of men in this family who are just problematic, so... So Armie's great-great-grandfather is called Dr. Julius Hammer, and basically he gave the wife of a Russian diplomat an abortion, and she died from it. So he went to jail. That pretty much ended up, pretty fast.
That's what he did.
Went to jail for first-degree manslaughter, and then we move on to the next one. And this was Armie's great-great-grandfather, and he is equally terrible, if not worse. So great-granddad Armand, that's his name, Armand, this is who Armie's named after, had multiple mistresses, which doesn't necessarily mean that he's terrible, but I think this story sort of makes you believe that he is. One prominent mistress was called Martha Kaufman, and Martha was a mother of two. She had divorced her husband to be with Armand, but then Armand's wife begins to get suspicious because these two are together for a long time, and so Armand's response to this is to make Martha legally change her name to Hillary Gibson, wear wigs, glasses, and makeup to change her appearance. Okay. The affair lasted over a decade, and Armand promised to take care of her and her children after he died. And she also, during this time, submitted to sexual demands even when they were extremely humiliating. And then Armand dies, and she was left out of the will. She was given nothing.
Oh, what a twat.
Rich people. So then we're just on to Armie's normal grandfather, Julian. Again, terrible.
Julian.
Yeah. Julian straight up killed a man.
There's no way to ease into
that. Supposedly he killed a person because of a gambling debt and because he's like flirting with his wife or something. But you might be thinking, oh, he probably went to prison and then that was done with. No. So his father, Armie's great-grandfather, had a friend deliver $50,000 in cash to a lawyer in Los Angeles, and then Julian claimed it was self-defense, and the charges were dismissed. So he just went on with his life. Then we get on to Michael, Armie's father, and as we've learned, a dodgy art man. Michael did many bad things. I haven't got into all of them, but the most notable thing from the article is he supposedly boasted about a sex throne, or as he called it, a naughty chair, that he kept in the Armie Hammer Foundation headquarters in Carpinteria, a warehouse where two people claim Michael lived for several years after his divorce. Also, just a fun fact, a lot of people said that the way Armie's responding to his divorce is very similar to the way his father responded to his divorce. So this is just typical Hammer family behavior. The chair was 7 feet high and featured a hole in the seat, a cage underneath, and a hook. And the Hammer coat of arms is painted on the seat. And there's a photo of Michael sitting on the throne and grinning while holding the head of a blonde woman who is sitting in the cage, also smiling. So that's just a brief look at the Armie Hammer dynasty.
I feel like it's an evil. It's still everything I learn about it. It feels like a curse. It feels like they are this rotten family from a fairy book, and yet just rich people.
And then this is just stuff we kind of learned about Armie himself. So I'm just including the first bit because it just made me laugh, and it's talking about how Armie, clearly from his social media likes, you could tell that he was quite into bondage, and he particularly liked ropes. He talked about this in interviews, not in like a sexual way. He was just like, I like tying ropes. I've always got ropes with me. I'm always tying them. His wife, or ex-wife now, Elizabeth, didn't really know how to respond to this hobby, finding it quite odd. And this is, I'm just going to read the next bit to you. A source close to Elizabeth, just makes her seem so sweet, close to Elizabeth said that when he was not working, Armie would throw himself into hobbies with great intensity. Several years back, Armie introduced Elizabeth to shibari, a Japanese bondage art form in which people are tied up in intricate patterns. Elizabeth tried to be supportive of the new interest, which Armie allegedly indulged by buying mannequins and inventing elaborate knots. Elizabeth even tried to find a lucrative spin on the obsession. She suggested he write a book about a hobby called Why Not, as in why not spelled K-N-O-T. Laughed her friend, but like how in it, like her response, he was like, I want to tie women up in these intricate ways, and she responded by thinking, you could write a hobby book. Which kind of shows how unaware she was of a lot of his character. But then we see that Armie is just a shit husband to Elizabeth. So if he's done anything, like if all the other stuff came out and everyone was like, no, we were lying, which won't be the case. But if that did happen, we still know that he's not a great person because of this. According to a friend close to Elizabeth, Armie confessed to being unfaithful shortly after his son's birth. But claimed it was a one-time offence. Do we believe that? Years later, this friend says Elizabeth found evidence of an affair Armie was having with his co-star, which, side note, a lot of people suspect that this was Lily James, but that's just suspicion.
Oh, in Rebecca?
Yeah.
Oh, it came out last year.
Well, there was Yeah, but like they were filming it. They were filmed it before that, and also it was to do with a code name that Lily was called on the set, and the wife found like a number in the phone under this name, something like that.
Lily James, sorry, side note, with Dominic West as well.
This
she
might not be
likes
true, but
men.
Okay. So Elizabeth found evidence of an affair. The Hammers had been to expensive family therapy, but to Elizabeth, the indiscretions and more notably his decision to flee the family during the pandemic because he had taken her to be with his family in the Grand Caymans. I didn't know this. I thought she had chosen to be there. He had taken her there, and then it got too much for him, and he fled during the pandemic because it was too hard for him to be with his family. Anyway, were the final straw. When Armie touched down in the US, he mistakenly sent a raunchy text message meant for someone else to his estranged spouse, and Elizabeth then filed for divorce.
Oh, poor Elizabeth. Like, did you not see from the family, like, as soon as you met, and I get that they're probably charming and they're rich, but from pictures in the documentary that we watched about Michael Hammer, he looks mental. Like, he looks unhinged, and it's like, if I was brought home, and yet I'd be like, these people are too rich, like rich people.
Well, that's the thing. Apparently, his mum had a very different upbringing, so supposedly was very like concerned about their upbringing and making sure they weren't too like spoiled rich kids. So apparently, she tried to like.
Oh.
Yeah, so she was making. So don't feel bad for this woman because she had some choice views on when he was starring in Call Me by Your Name, in that she wouldn't watch it because it went against her beliefs.
My. So she's a homophobe towards a straight man pretending to be gay.
Yeah.
Somebody make it make sense.
So then we hear from Courtney Vuskovic, who had I'm going to say relationship in quotation marks with Armie in June. So she is one of the women who's come out and spoken against him. So this might also explain Elizabeth staying with him or having a different view of him, but she says, day one, he makes you feel bad for him. It's when he makes himself look like a victim. So apparently he would do stuff like talk about how terrible his childhood was, like give you so much information about his upbringing and how terrible it was immediately. Then he love bombs you like crazy. You've never felt more special in your entire life. And so then all this happens, and then following that, he starts the manipulation and the darker stuff. And then Courtney also says that Armie asked her to partake in a bondage scenario that she was not comfortable with, and then he sulked about the fact she wasn't comfortable with doing it, and then continued to try and convince her to do it until she said that she consented to do it. And then they speak to Paige Lorenz, who also came out against Armie, and the details she shares about the beginning of their relationship is so eerily similar to what Courtney said, that like there's no way
this is what happens.
There's no way you can question it. It's just so similar about him making her feel bad for him, then love bombing her, and then manipulating her. It's so similar. And then she describes him as kind of a scary person. And then she also says he would say weird stuff to her, like the line that I think everyone's heard, "I want to eat your ribs." And then I think this is the saddest thing. She says the scariest part of it is that I did love him in a way. I would have let him kind of do anything. He had a certain hold over me. There is a lot more information in this article that if you want to, I would recommend reading it, because there's no way I could cover it all because it was long. But they're the bits that were news to me, and also the bits that I was like, this shows that Armie is just a terrible person. So please stop giving your excuses of, well, it's just a kink, so it's okay. Yeah, if something's a kink, that's fine, but he is not doing this consensually, and also just seems to be a terrible person in general. So stop with those excuses, at least.
It's not even, because the whole thing about the BDSM community, and again, we've talked about this in one of the episodes has like Armie Hammer DMs, which is the start of all this at the beginning of January, which feels like such a long time ago now. And it's not like BDSM is all about consent. Like that is such a core part of it. It's make sure that everyone's okay with it. But if he's just allowed to run off with his fantasies, and he finds a way to manipulate people into caring for him, and he's got like a tried and trusted manipulator technique that multiple women have come forward and said, oh yeah, he did the same to me. He's done. Yeah. It was like the same story repeated. So he knows how to manipulate people. And badger sulking. Grow up. Not only are you like cheating on your wife, you're living these double lives. You're using your money and influence for bad things. To like, you know, the power imbalance was already there.
Yeah.
And he still gets BDSM wrong, and he's like, oh, I wanted to do that. Oh, you're not going to do that for me because you don't love me anymore. I want him to disappear now.
I also find it dodgy, like, about the mum, that he would take all these women to meet his mum at, like, really early on. Like, I think as part of the love bombing. And she would just meet them. Like, I feel like if I was doing what he was doing and bringing people home to my mum, and like all the time, she would be like, hang on, like, no, I'm not taking in this. But it's a way of being like, oh, I'm special, like, he must be really like me, he's introducing me to his family.
It's all of them.
Oh, weird stuff.